Hello, it's Elizabeth from Elizabeth's Oracle. Welcome to the Sun into Aquarius edition of the newsletter. In this edition, we are going to be covering Mercury Retrograde, as well as the shadow of a retrograde. You can learn about Mercury, but you'll see how the concept applies to all the planets when they go in their shadow into the retrograde, come out of the retrograde, and then eventually come out of their shadow. We're also going to be covering stelliums. And we're going to talk about the Aquarius cycle in general. So welcome to the first video edition of the newsletter. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so let's give you a general overview of the Sun to Aquarius cycle. One of the things I want to talk about, a lot of times at the beginning of a year, we all feel very enthusiastic. We're going to do all these fabulous things and we're going to have it all together and stick with that, all those plans and or resolutions. And that's a great ambition. However, then our sort of daily routines, limitations, things get in there, and then we kind of rework that a little. And this cycle is going to be extremely supportive of just kind of tweaking our plans. And it's also a time that's telling us we're still kind of finishing things up and preparing for the new. My personal sense is that the real push forward is going to start as we get into March and April, because we have a lot of planets moving into Aries, which starts the wheel of the zodiac. Right now we have a lot of planets in the winter corridor, and we have a couple of retrogrades to talk about. Okay, so as you look at that chart, I want you to notice several planets, in fact 7, are in the winter corridor. Winter in astrology is from the winter solstice until the spring equinox. And if you notice, we have 7 planets there right now. And winter, of course, is a time of slowing down. Things literally freeze and stop, and some in fact go dormant. So with that many planets in that sector right now, we would definitely be getting a little bit of a cosmic slowdown, or a suggestion to sort of stop, reflect, let information, new ideas come in, and then be prepared, and continue preparing to enact those things as we move into the spring sector. And we're going to see planets moving, of course, into the Aries area of the sky, even as early as March. So it's not like you have the brakes on forever. But for right now, the fact that we have so many bodies in that winter area, which are also the 10th, 11th, and 12th signs of astrology, tells us that we are in a cycle of completion. Another aspect of that I want you to notice is Jupiter is retrograde and opposing everything in Aquarius. So let's break that down. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, of largesse, and it is retrograde right now, which means its energies are not as expansive. I wouldn't necessarily say it's contracting. That's more of a Saturn thing, but it's definitely got the brakes on. It's retrograde. It's just not being able to make the progress that it wants. And this position being in opposition to so many bodies in Aquarius tells us again we have an opponent, an opposing energy. So that little combination is another sort of, it's more of a message to accept the slowdown, stop, check in, kind of let the new information come in, let ourselves have new ways of thinking about things, and then we'll put it together. We're still in a cycle of preparation. Winter doesn't mean it all stops. It means we're just preparing, just like the earth prepares for a whole new cycle. Next, we're going to get to the dreaded Mercury retrograde. All right, so that is the third factor that I would say is all about a little bit of a slowdown or rethink, reconsider. Basically, if it starts with a re, it goes in this category. So Mercury is the most famous of the retrogrades. Everybody loves to get excited about a Mercury retrograde. This one happens to be from January 21st, right at the beginning of this cycle, all the way to February 11th. And more importantly, and this is what we're going to have a little mini tutorial on right here, is the shadow. I want to explain that. That is going on as well. So when you put that together with Jupiter, all the planets in the winter sky area, that would be definitely a time to be really kind to yourself. Don't be your own worst drill sergeant right now. Let the ideas come, see what works, what doesn't. Practice a lot of self-compassion, and don't try to force anything to work right now. You know, it's just, especially when it comes to things, your goals or things that you've set out for yourself, don't be extra hard on yourself. You know, definitely keep moving ahead, but really be compassionate. Okay, so let's look at that Mercury retrograde and the shadow, so you guys get this concept, and so you're like all astrology experts. Okay, so let's talk about the shadow of a retrograde. There are 4 key points that we talk about during these periods. They are when the planet first crosses its shadow, the beginning and end of the retrograde, which most of you are familiar with, and then finally when the planet passes the shadow point. So in this example, we're going to use Mercury, which is about to retrograde from 17 degrees of Aquarius all the way back to 1 degree of Aquarius. So here is a map of January by date, and we first note when Mercury hits 1 degree. In this example, it's hitting 1 degree of Aquarius on January 6th. That point marks the beginning of the shadow period. As you can see, Mercury keeps moving forward from January 6th until January 21st. On January 21st, it is at 17 degrees. And if you remember, our retrograde is from 17 degrees of Aquarius back to 1. And as you can see, the retrograde starts on the 21st. Now it'll continue moving backwards because that's what a retrograde is. Notice how as we finish out January and go into February, it continues to decrease in degree all the way back to 1 degree, the point it was at when it crossed its shadow. Now, as you can tell, the date that it stopped moving backwards and got all the way back to 1 degree is February 11th, the end of the retrograde. As you can see, it stops moving backwards and begins moving forward on that date. We end the retrograde. And after that point, it of course starts moving forward again. As you can see, it's building in degree again, increasing all the way to the beginning of March when it hits 17 again. And that's what we call passing its shadow point, the date that it finally moves past where it had originally gotten up to. You can watch this as many times as you need to till that makes sense. So hopefully I've explained that to you guys in a way that's really helpful. The thing to really notice about these periods is a lot of the same issues will come up during the shadow, during the retrograde, and as we get out of the shadow. The retrograde period itself may be the strongest times for the energies, but they are in effect during the shadow. Okay, so now that you've mastered the shadow of a retrograde, great. Let's also let you know when the rest of the Mercury retrogrades are taking place for 2015. Okay, so the next one that we're going to have is going to be from May 18th until June 11th, and that is going to be from 13 degrees of Gemini to 4 degrees of Gemini. It's going to move back to 4. So you want to notice when Mercury first hits 4 degrees, and I'll give you a hint, May 4th. All right, and then the last one of the year is going to be September 17th until October 9th, and that is going to move from 15 degrees of Libra all the way back to 0 degrees of Libra. And I'm going to let you guys experiment with your ephemerae or ephemerisas. Sorry. And see if you can figure out when it first comes into the shadow at 0 degrees of Libra. So that way you can see if you're getting this concept, okay? And the other thing to tell you about these Mercury retrogrades is they're all in the air signs. So again, this is the intellect, where we think, ideas, communication. So at any of those times, this January 21st to February 11th, the May 18th to June 11th, and the September 17th to October 9th, and the shadows, those are times that you may reorganize a project, come up with a different way of doing it, and just get some insight into like, wow, this could be so much easier if I do X instead of Y. So just be open to those. The next thing I want to teach you about are the stelliums, because they come up this cycle. Pardon me while I pull up my little pieces of paper. So back to the first chart I showed you, January 20th, you're going to see a grouping of planets all along the Aquarius corridor, right under the sun sign of Aquarius. When we get to February 18th, a month from now, when the sun goes into Pisces, we're going to see a Pisces stellium. There's a chart for that. And interestingly enough, when we hit that March 3rd date, when Mercury comes out of the shadow, we already have one of a couple of Aries stelliums that are forming. So here's the dirt on stelliums. So when we have a bunch of planets, any grouping of 4 or more under one sign, one of the 12 signs, that's called a stellium. And so what we're going to experience is an amplification of the energies of that sign. So the best contrast, I think this will be really easy for you, is Aries and Pisces. So under Pisces is the 12th sign. It's so mellow. It's water. It's mutable. It's a little gentle fish who just wants to swim along and get along with everyone. It's Neptune ruled, so it can be a little spiritual, or some might say out there, but I would never say that. It's just creative and gentle and sweet, and just wants to swim along with the world and everyone to get along. And so when we have that grouping, when the sun goes into Pisces this year, you know, those ideas, those Neptunian things, creativity, intuition, things just sort of coming from this deep intrinsic place, that ability will be heightened. And of course, it matters which planets are there, but I don't want to get too technical right now. Now, in contrast to that, let's go into Aries, when we're going to have that Aries stellium. Aries is a fire sign. It's an initiating or cardinal sign. It is just full of fire, and you know, if you know your Aries people, they are direct. You do not have to ask where you stand with them, and if you have the guts to, they will tell you. It's pioneering, it's adventurous, it doesn't want to play by anybody's rules. It's kind of similar to Aquarius, but it is definitely its own initiating, just usually ahead of the crowd, like Aquarius, but it's fiery, it's feisty, and passionate. So that's a very different energy. So when we have that stellium under Aries, you might feel very enlivened, very bold, like, okay, it's time to set out. And I think, again, depending on the planets that are involved, like in that case, we're going to have Uranus, which is a transpersonal planet, means a bigger global grouped energy. So we're going to see what happens on that level. You know, is it just what's going on in our world, or is it also what's happening in the collective? So the idea of a stellium under a sign, we look to see what sign that stellium's under, then we look up the traits of that sign, and then we see what's showing up in our world, or if there's something we need from that sign, an area that, like, you know, if you're somebody, for instance, who kind of gets bored, or you feel like you're too much of a follower, not a leader, this Aquarian energy would be great. If you're just getting stuck or in a routine, Aquarius never wants to do it how everybody else does it. Aquarius is original, it's inventive, it's innovative, it's the revolutionary. So some of these ideas, if you're trying to problem solve and you keep hitting a wall, you know, while we're under this Aquarius stellium, it's a great time to just ask your guides, your angels, higher force, whatever you like to call it, for innovative ideas, problem-solving solutions, because Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, which is surprises, it's unpredictability, it can be chaos, but again, when we're problem-solving, we don't want to keep coming at something the same way, because if it's not working, it's not working. So the Aquarian energy, with its visionary, big picture view, can just show us the shape of things to come. So those are stelliums. All right, you guys, so we are winding up the first video edition of the newsletter. I hope that you guys like it. I have a couple of announcements and there's some free stuff. So just sit through the announcements. I'll do them really quickly. And I think it's stuff that you like. It's astrology resources and news about sales and free minutes and all that good stuff. So first thing is more news on astrology. I share with two incredibly talented, beautiful souls, Kristy Ayala on Kristy's Connection to the Soul on Blog Talk Radio, and I also share astrology information on Surfing the Psychic Waves on Soundcloud. That's with Kristina Walsh, and links to their show are here in the description box and here in the video. So I hope you check those shows out. There's even more news, and of course they each channel their own information and have lots of other great guests. So I hope you'll check them out. In terms of specials, if you're new to Elizabeth's Oracle, your first reading, you will get 5 free minutes as a new customer. And the established customers, I'm running the Your 2015 promotion until the 31st of January 2015. So that's a special when you buy a 20-minute package. Not only do you get a 20-minute reading, but you get a copy of your chart so you know where your planets are, and you get a computerized report of all the combinations of your chart and the planets that are moving in this year, how they're going to interact. So that special is just on until January 1st. You can get all that information at Elizabeth's Oracle. And you can also sign up for my free monthly newsletter there, and you can subscribe to this channel. Now, I do have a giveaway, and that is exclusively for people who are on the newsletter list. Thank you guys so much I've been writing the newsletter since 2009, and I've been writing about astrology since 2008, and I really appreciate your support. So I do have some giveaways. So the first one is this. This is the Angel Tarot deck by Radleigh Valentine and Doreen Virtue, and a woman named Celeste in Arizona just won that. Running a contest each month for the Sun into Capricorn, Sun into Aquarius, Sun into Pisces, and Sun into Aries editions of the newsletter. So lots of decks to give away. And so the one that we're going to give away next is this one. Let me find the little box here. I love this deck. It's Angel Answers again. I'm just trying to get the right place in the camera. All right, thanks. Angel Answers is a beautiful deck. I've worked with it, and the special thing about any of these giveaways is that they are autographed. They are autographed by Radleigh Valentine, who works, many of you know him. Many of you in the angel community know him for his work with Doreen Virtue. So I know you guys can order the decks on Amazon, but yes, if you sign up for my newsletter, you'll be eligible to win a deck, and I'll be giving one away each month, all the way through that Sun into Aries edition of the newsletter. So I wish you guys a fantastic Aquarius cycle. Thank you for letting me experiment and innovate and try something new, and welcome to my office. I have no idea how all this is going to go in the editing process, but I really appreciate your willingness to try something new, and I hope that you guys really like this format. Thank you so much. We'll see you when the sun comes into Pisces.